Hi everybody, today I'm going to highlight my thoughts about the watercolor Sodalite Genuine from Daniel Smith, Quidacradone Magenta from Daniel Smith, Mulberry from Prismacolor, and Azo Yellow from M. Graham and Company. Here is a sketchy inspired photo that I'll be using today. And if you're interested in the app for Sketchy, where you can get reference photos like these, this is the app, a picture of the icon. And here I am showing you a test strip or swatch that I did with the colors beforehand. And I actually did a piece with the colors before this particular portrait that I'll be doing, just to get a feel. That was the first time actually. The other two videos I just did off the cuff. Alright, here we go. This is the third video in the series. Here's the Prismacolor. I went ahead and sketched it in first with the Prismacolor, the portrait. Here's the Sodalite Genuine, the tube by Daniel Smith. And next is Quidacradone Magenta, smaller tube, also from Daniel Smith. And here we have Azo Yellow from M. Graham and Company. So these are the 4 colors. This is a 4-color palette demo, so you can get an idea about these particular pieces. And that was the plate I used. I use a plate and I'm watering it down with special palette, so I have that big plate there to blend out those colors and setting up the brushes, setting up the picture to see, and I'm showing you that it's black and white. This was originally a color photo. I went ahead and made it a black and white so that I could see the values going on in the picture. Now the first step in this particular piece is to lightly put down the colors. Well, when I was doing this, because the magenta is a strong, beautiful color, I needed to put more water, and I didn't, which is fine. For the rest of the time, it's pretty light. I made sure that I was getting the water in, and I was fine with it going down a little bit darker. But my intentions for this demonstration were for you to see that I was putting down light tones first. That's what I'm trying to do. And I'm only using the magenta at this particular point. I don't always work this way. Sometimes in my other videos I might blend them together lightly. This one I decided I just wanted to just get down the one color first and put it in lightly. I'm just getting it up there where it's really light and the sun is hitting her hair and building it up. I'm getting her cheeks in. Like I said, it's a beautiful color. I drew her first, getting the eyes in there, and just feathering out the colors that exist with the pencil. So I drew her with that watercolor pencil, and I really like to use the watercolor pencil first on these, because when I get the paint down, the paint will bleed so nicely together, and I can get these really great effects going on in the pieces that I've been doing lately and experimenting. I like to experiment. I like to experiment a lot with supplies. There are just so many options that we have as artists now. I mean, in the old days, they spent a lot of time. Anyway, they spent a lot of time making their paints. Anyway, here we go. It is dry, and now I've gone in and I've taken the Sodalite Genuine, and I'm putting in midtones and dark tones now. There will be some, in this particular portrait, some areas that will be light, but mostly mid and dark tones in this particular part of the process that I'm using in this particular piece. I really like Sodalite Genuine. It has been in all of the palettes that I've done so far in this YouTube series, just because it's great and I love it, and it's also new to me and I just love it. I went ahead and I did a little research about the color, and I learned that Sodalite Genuine comes from Greenland and the flakes of Italy's Mount Vesuvius. It has a deep blue color because one of its components is lapis lazuli, which is very rare. That is a semi-precious stone that causes the paint to dry, giving it this wonderful texture. Just gorgeous texture because it has the stone in there. And then sometimes you'll get an effect when it dries of this pretty blue, or the blue with the gray, or blue with the black, and just these granules. And so I've been using this color a lot lately, just because it's just, I don't know, I just really like it. So I'm going ahead and now working into the hair, and I'm going light here and layering and building. So instead of having these two colors merge like I did in the other couple of videos, this time I'm layering the colors. When I'm doing the eyes in this particular piece, I'm really going in and not using much water with the paint, getting it very creamy and solid so that it can really emphasize those parts of the eyes, you know, in this particular technique that I'm using. So many possibilities. It's so fun. All right. Now I'm going ahead and the eyebrows. Now I'm going for more of a mid-tone in the eyebrows right now. Later I will put in the details darker, and I will let this dry. Then I'll get my brush later on and get the creamy color, the creamy Sodalite, and use it in tiny shapes and lines in that eyebrow to give it more of a well, I guess you could say realistic, but it's not really quite realistic, but sort of later on. And those the hairs in our eyebrows go in certain directions. When you look, they go, you know, on the right side. Little strokes and shapes would be put there. That would be later on. Right now I'm going and putting in light tones for the lips. I'm getting also tone on the nose, towards the bottom of the nose. Getting a tone in there, the shadows. And I let it dry, and I'm back. And I am actually putting in my background about midway into this particular piece, which is probably pretty unusual in general for me. Backgrounds can be put in the beginning if you want. Backgrounds can be put at the end. It's really what you're feeling like. I chose to put the background in now because of the mood I was trying to create with this piece and the hair in the sunlight. So I really wanted to get a feel for the background and if it would be working well, and letting it go a little into the hair just to see and go lightly. So now I'm using this beautiful Azo Yellow, and Azo Yellow is similar to the Magenta in that just a little bit is very strong. So to work lightly, I had to use a lot of water. I let it dry again. So the background was dry, and you can see some of that transparency after it's dried. So this particular piece, and I'm working, let me back up there. I'm working on the flower now, but I wanted to let you know that in this particular piece, I did let it dry quite often. And I think that I was letting it dry often because of that mood I wanted to create. And if I had spent so much time maybe letting the colors bleed a lot, I didn't know if I would get that effect and that mood that I'm really aiming for as a goal in this piece, and that thought sticks in my mind. And sometimes when I go into a piece, there's some key words that I tend to meditate on, I guess you could say, every once in a while. At least this is something I've noticed about myself. If I want to create a certain mood, I kind of focus on that mood. It doesn't always come out that way, but I do tend, it's almost like a mantra. I do tend to think of that word. And in portraiture, just in general, sometimes if I'm working with the face of a person, I might really think about what is that, what am I trying to capture here? And I might think about that word, whatever word that is. Doesn't always come out that way, but if I do that with the word, more than often, it usually does come out, but not always. All right, so now let's go back and look at me putting in this hair here. I was very gingerly, I guess you could say, with the hair, because as you can see here, she has these beautiful pieces flowing out, and I really didn't want to make a mistake with that, so I was cautious by just layering as much as I could. And I really believe that's what I was thinking when I was doing it. I'm going to be cautious. Now, sometimes it's not good to be cautious when you're an artist and thinking like that, but at certain times, maybe. It just depends on what you're doing, right? So, I'm getting cautious, and then all of a sudden, I'm getting bold here. It's getting bold and putting in that strong, beautiful magenta. It's just gorgeous. Has this like pink kind of undertones as well as a little bit of kind of a purple, and I thought it was working really well with the other colors. Okay, so I let it dry again, and I'm putting in the Sodalite stronger over certain areas. Sometimes we have our dark values, and then they dry in watercolor and they've lightened up, because watercolor has this tendency to, what you see is not what you get, basically, and you have to go back in and re-emphasize those areas that you want. And this is getting more towards the end of the piece, so I'm also trying to think of where are these areas I want to emphasize, which sometimes for beginners, that can be really hard, deciding, well, where am I going to emphasize here? And that can be sometimes a bit of a challenge, getting brave with those values, finding that if you just go ahead and just do it, you're going to find another spot, that you can work with that. It's really going to bring that composition together, instead of just leaving your midtones and your lights. And now I'm going in those eyebrows I talked about. If you can see, my strokes I'm making are in the direction that if you looked at an eyebrow, they're going in that particular direction. Putting in some highlight and tones under. Oh, well, thank you. And I hope you like this video and subscribe.